question from Alejandro Gomez de Grif from Aptuno about unit economics. And the beginning of Nubank, you guys were pretty obsessed with unit economics from what I recall. And there's different mindsets of kind of grow at all costs versus being very conscious of that. It sounds like from the very beginning, you guys were quite aware of that, right? Is that a conversation you had early on where you're like, hey, we need to, make sure that we grow this thing in a healthy way? Because it's tempting to want to just put the numbers up, right?
Yeah, I think you will remember this context well, which this has changed a ton, which in 2013, there were very few venture capital investors in Brazil, right? That has changed a ton in the past 8-9 years, where you have a lot of people willing to do Series A's. At that time, you could count the number of venture capital investors in seed rounds or Series A with one hand. And so we knew how much capital this business is going to take. I mean, we're building a bank. So this is going to take hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So there was a big question, will we ever be able to raise that capital? Who knows? That was a big risk. And so because of that, I think that just forced a lot of discipline, financial discipline since the very beginning. And the good news is we were operating in Brazilian banking, which has structurally one of the best margins in the entire world. So different, let's say, from a business like Uber, where the business hasn't really existed ever, and you really have a question about what the business model is. Banking is one of the oldest business models in history, has 3,000 years. And banking in Brazil is very profitable. So there was no business model risk in Nubank, no business model risk. We were building a bank. There were some risk around how do you allocate certain revenues and expenses. We were charging no fees, which meant we had to have way much more operational efficiency than the average bank so that the unit economics worked. So there were some bets in the P&L, but the underlying unit economics were very clear and made sense since the very beginning. And then we monitored them consistently, continuously, especially as we started to grow faster. We looked at them very, very closely. Credit, which our first product can be an atomic bomb. If you think about it, you can grow as much as you want with credit. You could get 10 million customers tomorrow in credit. People will line up the street because credit is effectively giving people money. So credit can give you infinite growth immediately. What's hard is giving people the money, trying to find the people that will pay you back. So growth, there is very little question you can grow giving credit to people. You will find that growth. What's really, really hard is knowing how to not blow up. And you can blow up easily, especially in a market like Brazil, and especially in the macroeconomic of Brazil of the first 8 years, which has been recession after recession, then pandemic. So not blowing up credit while growing really fast has been something that we just had to take very, very seriously since the very beginning. And we've been actually conservative. People think that we've been aggressive on the credit side. We've actually been conservative. There's probably 20% of our customer base that we had said no, that we should have said yes. And the biggest weakness of our product today in credit card is limits are still too low. And that's because we're still too conservative, because that just comes from a legacy of being conservatively biased. So we monitor economics very, very carefully, just because we think we didn't have really any other option. And it was very easy to lose control given the business that we operated in.